Hey, how you doing? My name's Ryan, and today I'm celebrating the 100th anniversary of Walt Disney Studios by showcasing 100 of the most magical LEGO Disney minifigures. We have a lot to get through, so let's not waste any more time. Our first figure is Mickey Mouse from the Disney CMF Series 1. This figure is relatively plain with a blank torso and only printed legs, but the look is iconic. The molded head also is really nice. It's a very simple figure, but it's iconic. It's Mickey Mouse, and it's unmistakably so. But how about our next figure, number 2, Minnie Mouse. Sporting her pink polka dot dress, this figure is a bit more involved, with some actual torso printing, dual molded arms, and dual molded legs as well. And while not a lot of people might recognize this pink outfit, as someone who has a child who watches Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, this is exactly what she wears. How about our third figure though, Daisy Duck. The molded head on this figure is fantastic and the printing on it looks really clean. The torso is pretty simple with a light lavender shirt, and so far I'm okay with these simple figures because they're so recognizable, and even though they're in a CMF series, they're just unmistakably so. It's Mickey, Minnie, and Daisy done to perfection. But how about our fourth figure, Donald. Donald is a touch more complex with cuff printing on the arms, dual molded legs, a great molded head, and even an added hat piece. I'm not sure how much more detail you could add to these mascot characters because they're already so simple in design, but how about a Disney princess figure? How about figure number 5, Ariel? This figure has the challenge a lot of Disney minifigures have in simplifying the animated design for minifigure form. I think this one does it really well. The face is quite nice, the torso looks fantastic, the molded fin piece is great, the flounder accessory is actually from a different set, but I think it fits really well here. This is a great Ariel figure. But what's a Disney princess without their villain? In this case, figure number 6, Ursula. And this figure knocks it out of the park. A beautiful looking face, the torso is relatively simple, but the molded tentacle legs steal the show. Really fantastic design here. Moving from the 2D animated form to 3D animation with Pixar's Buzz Lightyear. This 7th figure has the real challenge of translating 3D to 2D while also simplifying it for LEGO form, and it's a really beautiful look here. The amount of printing on the legs and torso is fantastic. The face looks a little cartoony, but I think it works here. But let's be honest, the real star of the show here is the molded backpack and wings. This piece looks phenomenal and the print work on it is excellent. Every line is clean, every color is separated. Really well done here. On the simpler side, we have our next figure, number 8, the Toy Story Alien. While the molded head is wonderful here, the torso is quite simple and the printing on the short, unbendable legs definitely adds a little bit of contrast here, but not a ton. Put next to Buzz Lightyear, it is kind of odd that the Toy Story Alien looks closer to its actual design than Buzz does, where Buzz has a bit more of artistic license to go closer to LEGO style, but I think it kind of works. Moving to figure number 9, it's Alice from Alice in Wonderland. I love how faithfully this figure recreates the animated character. The face is rather simple, the torso and skirt print flow really nicely together. The added drink me potion bottle is a nice touch, and the hairpiece with a printed bow on top is wonderful looking. But how about figure number 10, the Cheshire Cat? This character is almost a direct translation from its animated counterpart, with the face design not really having much change to it. And that's okay, not every figure has to be translated and mutated into LEGO form. Sometimes the character design fits really perfectly with LEGO. I think this is one of those cases. The molded head looks fantastic, the printing across the torso, arms, and legs is clean, if not simple, but the face print really steals the show here. But how about our next figure, number 11, Peter Pan? I think this figure's design strikes a balance between LEGO's design aesthetic and the original animated character. The face has that wonderful 1950s charm, the molded hat, hair, and earpiece is fantastic, and the simplified torso, legs, and arm I think work wonderfully here. But again, what's a good hero without their villain? It's time for Captain Hook. This 12th figure I think skews a bit closer to LEGO's design than the character design, with the face feeling kind of flat in look, but the wicked mustache, smile, and eyebrows are quite nice. But the molded piece, the hat, hair, and feather are just wonderful looking. I love how big and swoopy they are. It really feels cartoonish in the best way. The gold sword and hook hand are a beautiful touch here, and this makes for a fantastic Captain Hook figure. But how about our next character, Aladdin? This is a strange design for a figure in that the torso is almost perfect to the animated counterpart, as are the legs, but the face is kind of off, looking more like a generic LEGO action hero than Aladdin. But the molded hat and hairpiece as well as the genie lamp look really nice in minifigure form. Moving on to number 14, it's the genie. This figure definitely skews a bit closer to LEGO's design than the animated character, with the face looking rather cartoonish. But the rest of the print work I think is quite nice, with the gold cuffs, the minimal printing on the torso, the genie leg piece, and the large blue ears with top fluff of hair. These two figures evoke Aladdin without being direct translations of their animated characters. But how about we move back into the world of 3D with figure number 15, Mr. Incredible. I think this figure has way more license to go a bit more cartoony in the translation from 3D to 2D, and it does a wonderful job here. Mr. Incredible looks really nice. I love the widow's hair peak, I like the simplified face design, I love the torso print. Everything looks really good here. But again, what's a hero without their villain? How about Syndrome? And Syndrome's face, I think, is beautiful. A great translation of the 3D character model into 2D. This face print is probably close to what a storyboard artist would have drawn for Syndrome, and it looks wonderful. Add to that a really nice torso with beautiful arm printing and leg printing, and of course, a nice orange molded hair. You have a great villain here. But how about our next character, number 17, Stitch? I think this molded head and print work have the perfect middle ground between the original character model and LEGO style. The minimal torso print is nice, and the short legs with toes on the bottom is also a great touch. I'm not sure I could conceive of a better Stitch figure, but hint hint, LEGO did, and it's a bit further down the list, so we'll get to it in a little bit. But how about figure number 18, Maleficent? I quite enjoy the molded horn piece and the lovely purple and black cape. The torso print work is definitely a bit dark, but the face is stern, haunting, and beautiful. And that wraps it up for the Disney CMF Wave 1, but how about a figure that was missing from the series, but definitely part of the core group? It's Pluto. Now, there have been several Pluto minifigures in Duplo form, but this one comes with actual minifigures, so even though it's a bit larger, it definitely is to minifigure scale. And I think the mold work here is quite nice. The printing on the mouth is a little bit wonky, but the overall impression is quite nice. And I'm kind of glad we actually do have a Pluto figure, even if it's a little bit large than it probably should be. But how about some of the more detailed Disney minifigures? How about figures from the Disney Castle set? And I'll start with figure number 20, Mickey Mouse in his tuxedo. This is what a detailed Mickey Mouse minifigure should look like. It's an iconic look that anybody who visits the Disney parks should recognize in an instant, especially if you've seen Fantasmic. This is the Mickey Mouse figure I wanted to have when I first heard they were making a Disney Mickey. It's this look. But how about Minnie Mouse, finally sporting her iconic red and white polka dot dress? I imagine this is the Minnie Mouse figure a lot of people wanted, as it's her most iconic look, and the printing here does not disappoint. From the bow, to the torso, to the dress piece, to the dual molded, printed legs, this figure looks fantastic. But unfortunately, not every Disney character got an amazing upgrade for the castle set. Take Daisy Duck for instance. While there certainly is more printing and a different color scheme, I wouldn't call this design an immense upgrade from the previous one. It's certainly better, but it's more so a different outfit on Daisy than a wild upgrade of design. Moving on to figure number 23, it's Tinkerbell. With a really great hairpiece, a simple but effective face print, a nice torso print and skirt piece, blue translucent wings, and a lime green magic wand. I do kind of wish LEGO included both the minifigure and a micro figure of Tinkerbell. That would have been a great touch for both the Peter Pan CMF figure or the Disney Castle, but for what we got in this original Tinkerbell, I think she looks wonderful. But you may be thinking, hold on, we've had a Mickey, a Minnie, a Donald, a Daisy, and a Pluto. Aren't we missing someone? And making his long-awaited first appearance in the Disney Train and Station set, it's figure number 24, Goofy. Sporting an incredibly accurate molded head that does look a touch weird from the front, but from the profile, it's iconic, it's Goofy. Add to that a green hat, an accurate but simple torso and leg print, and you have a character that's long overdue for minifigure form. Do I wish Goofy was taller than the rest of them? Yeah, maybe you could have used the old Woody legs or the new Avatar legs, but I'm glad we finally just have a Goofy minifigure. Moving away from the Disney main group, we have figure number 25, Woody from Toy Story 4. And I think this Woody design is a really nice counterpart to Buzz from the CMF series. While the Toy Story 3 figures use molded heads to more accurately represent the Pixar animated characters, I think this translation to 2D was well overdue and fits with the rest of the Disney minifigures. The nice goofy smile, the molded hat and hairpiece, the torso work is fantastic, the dual molded legs are a nice touch. This is a great Woody figure. But how about figure number 26, Jessie? While her face isn't as expressive as Woody, I think the hat-hair mold combo is a great touch, and the printing on the legs is a beautiful addition, and a good torso rounds out a pretty great Jessie minifigure. But how about another Toy Story 4 character? It's Bo Peep. This face I think is a great counterpart to Woody's smile, and the molded hairpiece is a great touch. The printing on the torso and legs are quite nice, and I always enjoy the new fabric capes. I think they feel and look really good. Now, one more Toy Story character I have in my collection is not from Toy Story 4, but actually from Toy Story 3. It's Rex, and this is a great molded dinosaur figure. Incredibly accurate to the Pixar design, pulled right from the movie, and while it might not fit in with the rest of the Toy Story 4 figures with their 2D design, I think this Rex character figure is incredible looking. How about we keep with the Pixar theme with figure number 29, Mrs. Incredible from The Incredibles 2 Wave. I'm always a big fan of these long stretchy arms, and with a nice torso and leg print, a good face, and a rather unique molded hairpiece, I think this Mrs. Incredible figure looks rather good and a great counterpoint to Mr. Incredible. But how about the kids? Figure number 30, Dash, with a really expressive face, a nice torso print with no added muscle lines because he is a kid, dual molded arms, and dual molded short legs. I think this Dash figure is quite good, though I will admit it is kind of odd that the Speedster character doesn't have movable legs. Strange choice there. But how about figure number 31, Violet? Again, the torso has no added muscle lines as she is a child, and the rest of the print I think is quite accurate to the character, simplified in the 2D form. Moving on to our smallest minifigure of the entire bunch, it's Jack Jack, with a tiny little face print and a blank body, but I don't think I've ever seen printing on a minifigure baby's torso before. But outside of the minimalist nature of this figure, I think it looks quite good. Up next, we have the figures from Wave 2 of the Disney CMF series, and up first, it's Vintage Mickey. This 33rd figure I think is a nice counterpart to all the other Mickey figures, with a black and white design, the Steamboat Willie hat, and dual molded legs with printing on them for the iconic white shorts. The blank torso doesn't really bother me because it's still accurate to the design, and the character came from the 1920s. It had a really simple design to begin with. But how about Vintage Minnie, with another wonderfully molded head that includes a small hat with flower on top, nice eyelashes on the head mold, a blank torso, but dual molded, multicolored legs, and a skirt piece that makes this Vintage Minnie look rather nice. Now, if you were born in the 90s and watched a lot of old Disney cartoons, you'll get a kick out of this next figure. It's Scrooge McDuck. Sporting his iconic look from DuckTales, this 35th figure has a beautiful molded head that also includes molded glasses, a nice top hat, a faithful print on the torso and legs, a coin, and his cane. And once you have Scrooge McDuck, you have to have the nephews. Up first is Huey, with big bold blue eyes to signify how young he is, a nice hat piece, a blank red torso, but dual molded short legs. A great Huey figure, even though the design's pretty simplistic. But how about number 37, Dewey? Take Huey, make him blue, and add a slingshot. That's Dewey for ya. Same goes with number 38, Louie. Take Huey or Dewey, make him green, add a flashlight. In hindsight, it is kind of a cheap shot to include 3 almost identical figures in a CMF series, and if I was a harsher critic, I'd probably ding LEGO for that, but how can you have one without the other 2? So, I'm kind of okay with it. Okay, enough copycat figures. How about number 39, Jack Skellington? This is an incredibly complicated, but still easy on the eyes design. The amount of line work on the torso and legs is almost overwhelming, but the balance is there. The face print looks quite nice. The bat bow tie is beautiful looking. This Jack figure is a real testament to the cohesion behind LEGO's design team and printing team, in that if you had a design this complicated, but a printer not as sophisticated as LEGO's, this figure would have turned out to be a muddy mess, but it looks phenomenal because the 2 parties work so well together. But how about Jack's Tim Burton counterpart, figure number 40, Sally? This face print feels kind of small, but the overall impression I think works well. The design work on the torso with all these different patches and shapes and spirals and cross hatches looks phenomenal, and again, that cohesion between printing and design is visible and apparent here. But not every figure has to be super complex to be effective. Take Jasmine, figure number 41. With a rather simplified face design, minimal printing across the entire body, torso, and legs, but a wonderful molded hair, braid, and tiara piece, this Jasmine figure is a great example of the idea of consolidating your efforts into singular pieces to make or break your character, and in this case, it makes this character. Jasmine is unmistakably Jasmine because of that hair. But again, what's a great hero or princess without their villain? And in this case, it's Jafar. And while the elongated face print I think doesn't really work well for LEGO's design aesthetic, even though it's accurate to Jafar the animated character model, what matters most here is that hair and hat piece. It looks phenomenal, it's printed phenomenally, there's even shading and highlights in the jewel in the center. I can excuse the minimalist torso design and the blank dress piece because this figure knows where the energy was needed most for design, and that's the hair hat piece, which captures the essence of Jafar wonderfully. But for our next figure, number 43, I have a question. Who put the Glad in Gladiator? That's right, it's Hercules, who sports a beautiful blend of the character model and LEGO's design aesthetic in everywhere except the face. I think the face is a bit too simplistic, looking more like generic LEGO hero than Hercules. But the molded hair and headband piece, the torso design, the shield, the legs, all of these elements mesh together to make a great Hercules figure. And I think by this point in the collaboration between LEGO and Disney, the simplified face design kind of became the staple, the norm, as opposed to the exception. So you got a lot more faces that look simple, but still evoked the character essence. And the designers at LEGO let the torso, hair, and accessories do most of the heavy lifting. But it wasn't always the case. Take our next figure, Hades, whose face design looks identical to the character model, and the molded blue flame hair, accurate torso design, and really wonderful molded slimy smoke tentacle leg piece really go above and beyond to make this figure look like Hades. Not LEGO Hades, but Hades plucked right out of the animated movie. But this amount of detail doesn't always work in favor with LEGO. Take our next figure, Edna Mode from The Incredibles. The choice to have the hair and glasses and eyes be one piece is kind of weird, especially when you have a really great face print underneath the hairpiece. The simplified torso design and blank legs don't really do much for me. The Edna Mode handbag is the best piece for me, and even though LEGO put all of their design energy into that hair eye piece, I don't think it works out here. I think simple would have been better. Case in point, Frozone. This hero is a great example why less is more sometimes, with a rather simplified but accurate face, minimalist but accurate torso design, dual molded arms, dual molded legs. This figure not only looks like Frozone, but also works well as a minifigure, and that's key. How about minifigure number 47, Chip, featuring a wonderfully molded and printed headpiece, a simplified torso, the mid-sized legs that bend, and a rather charming acorn nut build. This figure put all the energy into the headpiece, and I think it paid off. Same goes with the next figure, Dale. And LEGO made the wonderfully smart choice to make a different face mold for Dale, with the bright red nose and 2 teeth as opposed to just 1 tooth in the middle. That level of detail is greatly appreciated, and it's a great 3D translation of a 2D animated character. But how about the reverse? How about a 3D animated character translated into a more 2D design? Figure number 49, it's Elsa from Frozen, with a rather accurate but simplified face print, a beautifully done torso design with all those little scales, some great printing on the leg piece, some great arm printing with little shiny iridescent pieces, and a rather well done molded hair piece with that curving braid. Elsa is certainly as iconic in minifigure form as she is from the movie Frozen. But how about her sister, figure number 50, Anna? Again, the face is simple but accurate, the torso design is well done, the printing on the dress piece is nice, and the hair piece is really what sells this figure as Anna, with nice molding and color. And now that we're halfway through this 100 Disney minifigure showcase, how about a short break? Okay, figure number 51 is Olaf from some of the Disney Friends sets, with a really nice molded head with a removable carrot and a minifigure headpiece printed for the body of Olaf. This is a great addition to Anna and Elsa and a wonderful Disney minifigure. Up next is a LEGO Ideas minifigure who's always hungry for honey. It's Winnie the Pooh. And much like the mascot figures, this 50-second minifigure really relies on the molded head to make the character. as the torso print is pretty bare and the legs are blank. It looks like Winnie the Pooh, and well, that's the most important part. Coming in at number 53, it's Tigger, with a much more complicated print on the arms, torso, and legs, with a molded head and tail to match. This Tigger figure is pretty incredible, not only being identical to the character design, but also being a good minifigure too. But how about number 54, Rabbit, who falls into a similar category as Pooh, with the molded head being the real star of the show here. The torso print is really blank and the legs are bare, but the head does the job even if the eyes are a little bit creepy. Figure number 55 is Piglet, with a very well done molded head, a simple torso design, a nice scarf piece, and mid-sized bendable legs. And from a sheer playability aspect, I'm really glad they gave Piglet bendable legs as opposed to the small legs that don't move at all. And rounding out the Winnie the Pooh cast, Eeyore. This molded piece looks fantastic. The printing is very clean on it. The actual design of the mold is wonderful, and the additional bow on the tail is a great touch. And while LEGO Ideas was an unlikely source for solid Disney minifigures, sometimes they can come in the most unlikely of places. Take the Disney Friends line, specifically the Beauty and the Beast Enchanted Castle set. While we haven't gotten a Belle or a Beast figure, we have gotten some fantastic renditions of the Enchanted Staff. Take minifigure number 57, Lumiere, as a perfect example. While the build is quite simple, the printed cylinder head is fantastic looking and gives off the perfect vibe of this suave, debonair French butler. Same goes for number 58, Cogsworth, featuring a bit more of a cartoony face and a bit more of a happy expression for the character who's usually rather dour. This Cogsworth build is simple, but I think pretty effective. And while those two characters had a bit of a bigger palette to work with, how about some of the smaller Enchanted Staff? How about Mrs. Potts? This 59th Disney character has only really 2 eyes to give off the expression of Mrs. Potts, but I think it's rather effective, if not a bit simple. But the eyes really do most of the heavy lifting. It's not identical to the character, but it gives off enough of an impression that it's Mrs. Potts. How about even smaller with number 60, Chip, with a full face design but a very curious position of the face. Usually, Chip's nose is the handle, but not for this figure. The handle's on the backside with the face print being on the opposite end. So Chip kind of has 2 handles, which is an odd choice, but I think the printing is well done enough that it looks like Chip, and I think it's rather effective. Moving on to some of the larger characters, at number 61, it's Chef Bouche, with really only 1 printed tile piece, this cheese slope on top, but the entire grill build with these pots and pans and the chef hat on top I think is wonderful and whimsical. And rounding out the main cast of Enchanted characters, it's number 62, the Wardrobe, with again really only 1 printed piece on top, but that does so much to make this character feel alive, and the shaping of the build also does quite a bit to make this feel more like a character and less like a build. If we ever get minifigures of Belle and the Beast, I really hope they're up to par with these Enchanted Castle items, because I think they do a really good job of making these builds feel like characters, which is not an easy thing to do. But what's a princess, or a beast, or an Enchanted Castle without their villain? And releasing alongside other Disney villains is figure number 63, Gaston, with a beautifully done cocky grin smile, great dual molded arms, a very accurate chest print, and printed dual molded legs. Really all that's missing from this figure is a giant old hunting rifle, and this Gaston would be picturesque. But how about a more classic Disney villain, arguably the first? It's number 64, the Snow White evil queen in her old lady disguise. While the dress piece is rather simple and the torso has this oddly printed on hair, I think the face here steals the show, with 1 visible tooth, great bags under the eyes, and a wicked smile to top the whole thing off. And speaking of Disney villains in their alternate form, it's Jafar as an evil genie. This 65th figure is a nice counterpart to the original Genie figure, with a more expressive face design and a rather simplified torso. But this bright red color palette I think looks fantastic here, and the dark lamp is a great touch. Now this villain set also included one of the strangest additions to the Disney Pantheon that I've seen so far, and that's a remake of Maleficent. The amount of color printing on the torso and dress piece are quite nice. The evil smile is definitely a great touch. The horns are actually different from the original. Almost every piece in this figure has been upgraded, but is this Maleficent figure stealing the spot from maybe another Disney villain? Anyway, moving on to the other figures that were released in conjunction with the 100th anniversary, it's number 67, Moana, with a really detailed leg and torso print, a rather simplified face, a nice hairpiece. This Moana figure feels complete, and that's what's important. After a few years of experimenting, I'm glad LEGO has nailed down the ability to balance between LEGO's design aesthetic and the Disney characters, especially in 3D form. That balance is also very apparent in our next figure, number 68, Carl Fredricksen from Up, with a wonderfully designed face print, a solid torso design with a small little adventurer's badge on the lapel, and mid-sized legs to make sure he can be posed and moved around. Carl is a great minifigure, but how about the other character that comes in that Up set? It's Russell. This 69th figure has probably one of the most detailed torsos out of the entire Disney collection, with so many small buttons and pins on his sash, but each one is so well designed that it works. One last figure from the anniversary sets, it's number 70, Wendy Darling, with a rather simplified torso design, blank slope legs, a pretty cute face, and a great hairpiece to match. And while this Wendy figure is rather simple looking, put next to Peter Pan, Captain Hook, and Tinkerbell, I think it fits in wonderfully. But how about the Disney CMF Series 3 minifigures? How do they stack up against the rest? Well, I'll start off with number 71, Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey. And this character design is, again, one of the most iconic looks for Mickey Mouse, with a wonderfully done torso and leg design that flows rather nicely, a beautifully molded head with hat piece, and even a nice mop and bucket to go with it. If the Tuxedo Mickey is the most iconic, I think Sorcerer's Apprentice Mickey is right there below it, and this minifigure does not disappoint with that look. Up next is figure number 72, Jiminy Cricket. And I'm surprised LEGO opted to print the face as opposed to mold the head for Jiminy Cricket, but I think it looks rather nice. The added printing on the legs and the simplified torso do complete the look. Although I do want to point out, I'm pretty sure the ad images for Jiminy Cricket had his legs bending, but the minifigure does not have posable legs. Kind of a jerk move there. And that move is made all the more apparent when figure number 73, Pinocchio, does have posable legs. But that's not what makes this figure. What makes this figure is the molded headpiece, where the only piece of actual molding is the protruding nose. That is such a wonderful touch that gives this character so much life and energy and could not have been done with just a print. Add to that a great molded hat hairpiece, a wonderfully done torso, and even a Goldie printed head for the fishbowl, and this figure is a wonderful addition to the Disney collection. But okay, enough good guys, enough heroes. How about another villain? How about the evil queen from Snow White in her normal attire? Or, regal attire. This 74th figure I think is really well done, with a torso and dress piece that faithfully capture the essence of the animated character, a face that walks a tightrope between LEGO and Disney, and a magic mirror accessory tile print that beautifully walks that tightrope. Add to that a cape, collar, and crown, and you have a wonderful Disney villain. Now, do you remember a while ago when I said that they probably couldn't have remade Stitch any better? Well, LEGO kind of did. They gave him a really great upgrade here. Not only is the molded head different with these squinty eyes, but the outfit that they chose, his red spacesuit, looks wonderful on this 75th figure. The two added space blasters in yellow look great, but the real star of the show here are the arms. LEGO used the dual arm piece first introduced in Star Wars to give Stitch his two extra appendages. I think it's really cool we now have Stitch in his animal form and also his alien form. That's pretty awesome. But how about our next figure, number 76, Pocahontas, with a really well done torso and leg design that flows beautifully, a strange pile of leaves, a compass tile print that's quite nice, a simplified face, and a hairpiece that makes it feel like the wind is blowing, and that's just a really wonderful addition. Pocahontas always seems to have her hair blowing in the wind, so to capture that in minifigure form, nice touch. Figure number 77 brings a classic Disney villain to life. It's Cruella de Vil, with a fantastic face print, a dual molded, dual colored hairpiece, a collar piece that has some printing that matches the torso and legs, and a cute little Dalmatian to match. I'll be completely honest, I don't know which Dalmatian this is, but it is one of the 101, I can guarantee you that. Next up, figure number 78, Mulan, with a head print that captures Mulan's more expressive and comedic faces, a really nice torso and leg print, a Lucky Cricket in a 1x1 round cylinder, and a rather nice rubberized hairpiece. And while this isn't the exact outfit I would have chosen for Mulan, I might have gone for her soldier look, this is a rather well done figure. Moving on to a more modern Disney character, number 79, Miguel from Coco. Featuring two heads, both his alive look and his skeleton head dead look, the torso and legs are pretty simple. Then again, Miguel does wear civilian clothing, so the hoodie and jeans are quite accurate. And the Dante dog mold with this bug-eyed expression and the tongue sticking out is really nice. But again, what's a Disney hero without their villain? And number 80, Ernesto de la Cruz does not disappoint, bringing what I think is one of the most detailed Disney minifigures we've ever seen. The amount of silver accents on this white torso, legs, head, hat, guitar, all of them are wonderful looking. The balance between black lines, silver lines, gold lines is perfect. The face is snarky, the hat has some extra molding on the top, and a beautiful rim design. And thematically, I think it works compared to Miguel, who's a bit more simplified. Ernesto is bold and bright, but kind of phony looking. It's wonderful when Disney and LEGO can capture theme within character design. Figure number 81 is kind of a deep cut in the Disney pantheon. It's Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. This older Disney animated character features a lovely molded head, a pretty blank torso, dual molded legs, and a small Oswald clapper print on a 2x1 tile. Like I've mentioned in this video, most of these mascot characters are pretty simple in their design, with most of the focus featured on the headpiece, but that's not always the case. Take figure number 82, Robin Hood, for example, with a wonderful molded head and hat piece, nice printing on the torso, dual molded multicolored legs and foot printing, and dual molded arms. This character has a lot going for it, and LEGO has opted to include detail on a lot of pieces for this figure and not just the head. That's very appreciated. Same goes for figure number 83, Prince John, with a wonderful molded head, beautiful printing on the torso and legs that flow very well together, dual molded legs, cuff printing on the arms, and a nice tile print of a Prince John coin. These two classic Disney characters get quite a bit of love, but how about a more modern Disney character? How about Tiana from Princess and the Frog? This 84th figure features a nice face, wonderful printing on the torso and dress piece, dual molded arms, a nice tiara piece, and a wonderful hairpiece. It's a rather well done Tiana figure that doesn't really compromise much on translating the animated character to LEGO form. But again, what's a Disney princess without their villain? And in this case, it's Dr. Facilier. Featuring a wonderfully wicked face print, a beautiful torso print, barely any leg printing unfortunately, and a nice hat to top it all off. Dr. Facilier is definitely less detailed than Tiana, but has just as much impact with that wonderful face print. And speaking of evil smiles, how about our next figure, the Queen of Hearts? With probably the widest closed mouth smile I've ever seen on a minifigure, a nice hairpiece with a crown built into it, and this large rotund dress torso piece that really fills out this character. Moving on to figure number 87, it's Princess Aurora from Sleeping Beauty. With a nice torso and dress print that flow rather well together, nice sleeve printing on the arms, a rather plain face, but a good hairpiece with a crown on top. This figure also includes an owl, which is fine in my opinion. How about figure number 88, Baymax from Big Hero 6, with a simple but accurate face print, simple but accurate torso and leg printing, but these new large bulbous arms that are incredibly accurate for the character. But now we reach the figures from the 2023 Disney Castle remake set, and because I already owned the original castle, I just wanted the figures. So I want to thank eBay seller SudoTUI for offering me just the minifigures from this new set. Really appreciate you. And even more so, he sent me 2 extra figures, both of which are actually Johnny Depp Disney figures, Jack Sparrow, and Tonto from the Lone Ranger. So technically I'm featuring 102 Disney characters, but who's counting? I mean, I am. It's 100 characters, but now it's 102. And first up from the castle set, figure number 89, Snow White. With a very playful cartoonish face print, a lovely hairpiece, a nice white collar, and a rather detailed torso, arm, and dress print. Top it off with an apple piece and you have a wonderful Snow White figure. But how about her counterpart, Prince Florian? With a nice but basic torso and leg print, blank arms, a nice cape, but a face that I'm pretty sure has been reused from Peter Parker before. Kind of odd to see that. But not as odd as waiting 2 castle sets and 91 figures worth for Cinderella, the person who literally owns this castle now. With a simplified face print, beautiful hair and headband piece, wonderfully iridescent torso and dress print, and dual molded arms. This Cinderella figure I think was worth the wait, and I'm glad we finally have the figure whose namesake is the castle. But how about her Prince Charming? Figure number 92, Prince Charming. With a rather sly looking smile for a face print, a nice hairpiece, simple torso, legs that only have a little bit of printing on them, but a nice glass slipper 2x1 tile print on clear. Those two figures work well together, even if that smile on Prince Charming is a little bit off. Thankfully, the smile on figure number 93, Prince Naveen, looks wonderful. And add to that a simple torso, blank legs, and a cape, you have an okay Prince Naveen figure, even though he is definitely overshadowed by Tiana, whose figure is given so much detail and love in the design. Next up is figure number 94, Rapunzel, with a cute face print, nice hairpiece, even though it should be a little bit longer in my opinion, nice printing on the torso and dress piece, and also great arm printing as well. Again, kind of odd we didn't get her super long blonde hair, and if you're gonna give Rapunzel short hair, maybe go for the dark brown style? Anyway, how about figure number 95, Flynn Rider, whose face doesn't really look like the character. I honestly think the Prince Charming face might have looked better for Flynn than Flynn's actual head, but a nice torso, simple leg print, and sash does enough to make this character feel like Flynn Rider. And now, we're in the home stretch. These last figures come from the Walt Disney Tribute Camera Set, one of my favorite LEGO builds of recent memory. And up first is Dumbo, figure number 96. This molded character is really well done with bright, bold colors, beautifully cute eyes, and the yellow iconic hat to top it all off. Moving on to figure number 97, it's Bambi. Again, this molded character is very accurate, with some amazing color work on the ears, top of the head, and spots all over the body. It's successfully molded characters like Dumbo and Bambi that make me hope we'll eventually get some Lion King characters, maybe a giant Pride Rock set. That'd be pretty fun. Moving on to figure number 98, Original Minnie. I love the half-lid print on Minnie's face here, and even though she's missing her bow, the skirt piece, leg print, and eyelashes are enough to signify this is Minnie Mouse. With these simple designs from the 1920s, less is certainly more, and it's about what details you add to these characters that make them stand out and feel unique. Such is the case with figure number 99, Original Mickey, and there's something so pure about this character. The face is simple, but cute and charming. The torso is bare, but the legs just have enough printing on them with being dual molded. Add the boots, add the 2 dots, and again, it speaks to how pure this character really is. It's so simple, but so effective, and that wouldn't have been the case without figure number 100, Walt Disney. It is kind of strange to get a human figure, yet alone an actual person in minifigure form, but Walt Disney is certainly worth it. We wouldn't have any of the 99 previous figures had it not been for this one character. And I use the word character rather bluntly, as Walt Disney the person and Walt Disney the icon are two very different entities. Watch Saving Mr. Banks for a tiny example of just how different this man could be from the myth, the legend, the whimsy that is Walt Disney. But I think this minifigure captures the character of Walt Disney rather well. He's playful, he's professional, and he's the man behind the mouse. And there you have it, 100 of the most magical LEGO Disney minifigures to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Walt Disney Studios. And if you made it this far to the video, I'd love to know your thoughts as to which minifigure was your favorite in the comment section down below. And as always, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and thanks for watching.